Hey guys, John here from etrailer.com. Today we have our 2020 Ford F-250. We're going to be taking a look at the Buyers Products aluminum over-the-cab truck bed ladder rack. This has an 800-pound weight capacity, and it's a great way to get longer loads to our job site, wherever we're going, without having to add a trailer to the back of our vehicle. So a ladder rack like this is designed for working people, just a work truck. You got conduit, you put longer ladders on here, lumber, just about anything that you're going to be needing, more than just your truck bed. This has an aluminum construction, and so anything that we're tossing on top of these bars or scratching here on the side rails, we don't have to worry about those scratches rusting over time. Now this ladder rack offers a lot of different tie-down points. So we can install these tie-down anchors here. There's 2 for each crossbar when we're installing the product. They don't come assembled, so if it's going to be better for your application not to have these, you don't have to install them. But then we also have the side rails here. We can wrap it around these loops at the end. We really have multiple ways to secure our cargo for really anything that you're going to be needing it for. So these side rails and the legs can be adjusted depending on the size of our truck bed, or maybe even like if we have a drop-in bed liner, how we have to install it. For our application, from the front crossbar to the rear bar, here we have an 8-foot ladder, and it just sits on both of them, just to give you an idea of what kind of crossbar spread you're going to have. But then we also have this middle crossbar to help stabilize long loads as well. So the benefit of having a ladder rack like this with the overcab extension is just for longer loads, like long ladders, lumber, that kind of stuff that you don't really have room for in your bed. Just to give you an idea of what kind of clearance we have from our bed up to the bars, I'm going to measure from the top of our side rail to the bottom of the crossbar. It's right about 27¼ inches. Just to give you an idea of what kind of cargo you can fit, your day-to-day cargo that you're going to need to access quite often. So our load stops are easily adjustable along our crossbars, just for any kind of cargo that we're carrying, any specific lengths. I'll loosen up this tie down a little bit and show you. If we just loosen up this knob underneath, we can easily move these, and this goes for all 6 that we have with the kit. Our ladder rack secures to our truck bed with these bolts here. So it has a J hook basically that goes up under and secures on the bottom side of our bed rails. The installation does have quite a few pieces, so it is a little time consuming, so you want to plan for that, but it is pretty straightforward and easy. Let's take a look at it now. First thing we need to do is look at all of our hardware, open up your box, get familiar with everything, and then we're going to assemble our side rails. So we'll have 2 side rails, but they'll be in 4 pieces, so 2 for one side, 2 for the other. We will grab 2 of our plates. We go to put the plate on, make sure that we have the grooves facing down on the grooves for our side rail. And then we will feed our M6 bolts through. And then loosely install the lock nuts on the other side. Once these are loosely installed, we can attach the other side of the side rail. Okay, our second rail, we will set it down on top of the plate. I'm going to feed the bolts through and try to secure them one at a time. This is a little tricky to do by yourself, and so I do recommend grabbing an extra set of hands to help you with this part. So I'm putting the locking nuts on right after I feed the bolt through, just to make it a little easier, so I'm not having to hold everything down as tight. Now we will tighten down these lock nuts to secure the 2 halves together. With our side rails connected, next we'll attach our connecting clamps. We'll take 2 M8 bolts and slide them into these holes. And then just like the bracket we used to attach it, we will take the grooved side and we will place it on top of the grooves on our sidebar. And again, use M8 bolts and loosely attach the lock nuts on the opposite side. And then I'm also going to just slightly thread on the lock nuts for the M8 bolts, just so that when we do need to use them, I don't have to go and try to find them. Because there is a lot of hardware that is involved with this ladder rack, so we're just gonna lightly thread these on there so when we need them, we know right where they're at. So we'll repeat the same process for the other end of our sidebar, as well as both ends of the other sidebar. I will also say we do need to place a connecting clamp here, just next to one of the openings of our bracket, and we'll do the same corresponding on the other bar as well. So this system has 3 crossbars. 2 of them are going to be attached to our uprights, so we're going to start working on the front crossbar now. We do have the option, if we want to install the load stops. I recommend doing it because they're easy to use. They make it a lot easier to help adjust our loads, but depending on what kind of cargo, you might not want to put this on. When we do install this, we will start off by taking the bracket for the load stop. There's a hole here. We're going to take our stainless steel M10 bolt, put it through the hole, and then we're going to slide the top of our carriage bolt into the T-slot on the bottom of our crossbar. And then, once that is in place, we take the load stop, the side that is 3 holes, line it up with this bracket, insert our hardware, and secure it with the lock nuts. And we'll repeat the same process for the other side of the front crossbar. So we have our load stops on the crossbar. The last piece we need is the adjustment knob. Simply threads onto the bottom of the carriage bolt. And that just tightens everything up so we can place our load stops where we want them on the crossbar. Next on the crossbar, we're going to assemble the bracket that connects the crossbar to our side rails. So we'll need this spacer that we place on the top of the bracket, and then we're going to have these holes are going to be on top of the crossbar. We'll take another one of our carriage bolts, put one on that end, slide it through the T-slot like what we did with our load stops. Once we get that fed through, we will put another carriage bolt on this end of it. And then loosely attach your locking washers just so that we know where these need to be and we don't lose them. We'll repeat the same process for the other side of this crossbar. Now that we have all our hardware in the T-slot, we can go ahead and put our end cap on, which will help keep all of that hardware in place. We don't have to worry about it falling out and losing it. We'll repeat the same process for the other side. For our rear 2 crossbars, we're going to have the same exact assembly as the front crossbar, with the only exception of we're going to slide 2 of these carriage bolts in before installing the bracket. These bolts, the 2 bolts that we slide in on each side, those are going to be used to attach the crossbar to our leg system. Bracket with our bolts, and then place our caps on the side. We'll repeat the same process for the other side of this crossbar and our other rear crossbar. Now that we have all our crossbars assembled and ready to go, the next step is to install our legs. So for this, there's going to be 4 of them, And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the long part of the bracket is facing towards the center of our truck bed. So this one is going to either be placed at our passenger on the front, or it can be the driver's side at the rear. So let's install all 4 legs. I'll show you how to do that real quick. So here at the rear driver's side, we went ahead and removed the caps off of our J brackets. The flat part of the bracket is going to go up and under our bed rail. And we'll put the bolt up through the hole in the bracket. And we'll install our flat washer, lock washer, and then our bolt, or nut, excuse me. Loosely install that. Put our second bolt up through here. Same process, washer, lock washer, then the nut. So before I tighten down this hardware, I'm going to take a measurement from the rear stake pocket to this edge of the bracket, so that way I can make sure the leg on that side of the bed is going to be in the same spot. And we'll do this for the front legs as well. So we'll take this measurement, and I'm going to set it right about 7 inches. There isn't an exact measurement for this, just kind of where it works for your application. Now I can tighten down this hardware, and then just make sure that I have the same measurement on the other side. I said these measurements, it can kind of vary depending on what your bed is like. Like this truck bed has a drop-in bed liner in it, and so there are a few places where we're a little limited on where we can put the legs, but it is all adjustable, so just as long as you get everything squared up and right. So it seems a little bit wobbly right now, but that's because we don't have the whole crossbar assembled. Once we get everything assembled, we'll be good. Part of that's just from the cover too. But we got it tightened down, so let's install the other 3 legs. So initially we measured from the stake pocket to the bracket here, which is typically what you're going to do when you're installing a ladder rack. However, since this one has these sidebars that goes along it, what we're going to do is we're going to, again, make sure these are lined up together, but they have to also line up with these side connector plates. And so we measured from the center of one to the center of the other, where we have them right now, and it was about 69 inches. But if we move this one up to this next spot, it's about 52 inches. And so I'm going to make sure my legs are all lined up together, but I'm going to make sure the center of one crossbar or the center of one leg to the center of the other leg is roughly 52 inches, so that way when we get everything up there, we're not going to, you don't have to move everything multiple inches. So just a little tip before you start tightening everything down and getting it set up, take some measurements on where these are going to line up with the crossbars. So we have our legs in place. We already installed the middle crossbar, so we'll show you how to install the rear crossbar. It'll be the same process. We're going to move these brackets as far out as we can get them. And then the 2 bolts on either side, we're going to move them so they line up with the holes in the top of our legs. Let's drop into place to begin with. On that side, we'll go to the other side and drop it down. Once we know where our crossbars need to be with our legs, we've measured everything out, now we can secure everything down. We've already put some of our hardware in place, we just wanted to show you. Take a regular washer, a lock washer, and then our lock nut. Set it there. And just secure it into place. And there will be 2 of these for each leg. The next step is to install our side rails. Now remember, we put our hardware here so we wouldn't lose it. Go ahead and remove it. We will set our lock nuts down. And hopefully you've measured now from the middle of one set of bolts to the middle of the other set of bolts, so everything lines up. just go ahead and install the hardware. And we will repeat the same process for the other side of the vehicle. So just keep in mind that we're not just tightening down these two bolts. We also have the 4 lock nuts here for this bracket. And then after we get all of this tightened down, we're going to make sure that our side rail is straight and in line. And then we're going to tighten down this hardware as well. Now before we install our front crossbar and we complete the installation, we do need to make sure that our side rails are in line. If we have measured our crossbars and the legs and the positioning and everything, we have them all centered, then what we need to do is move our crossbar, our side rail in on our crossbars, and then I'm going to measure from the outside edge here of our crossbar into this bracket and make sure it's the same on the rear crossbar as well. We'll do the same thing for the other side. The reason we're measuring here and not from the legs is because the contour of the bed sometimes is different, so the leg measurement might be different. So let's measure here. And then we will just go to the other bar, make sure it's in the same place, and we'll tighten down our hardware. Now since we already have the side rails attached to our crossbars and we've taken a measurement from the outside to this bracket, we can actually already go ahead and tighten the hardware down for these brackets on this crossbar before we install it on the side rails. Just take the same exact measurement that we took for the ones that are up there. We're just using it as 1.5 inches is what we decided. Then we just need to tighten down the hardware on both sides of this crossbar. Installing the front crossbar is going to be a little bit tricky on your own, so you might want to grab an extra set of hands, or we're just going to use some of the cardboard that was in the box and lay it on our roof so we can lay down the crossbar, so we can do it by ourselves. We don't have to get an extra set of hands if we don't have any available. So I'm just going to lay this on the cardboard and scoot it across. And then I'm going to secure this to the side rail. I'm going to leave our cardboard up here just in case while I tighten down the rest of the hardware. Now that we have everything tightened down, let's get rid of our cardboard. I'm just going to move the load stops out to the side to get ready for any load we're going to carry. And that is going to complete our installation. That's going to complete our look at the buyer's products over the cab ladder rack on our 2020 F-250. Thanks for watching.